Lyons.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Good evening, everyone. I call to order the Monday, February 21st meeting of the River Falls Board of Education. This meeting has been properly notified, and we are going to move right into information items. And the first one will be our acknowledgments and recognition section, and we have a Wildcat Pride Award to present.
Do we have, there's Nate. Nate, do you want to come down? Do you have other representatives from Greenwood? You want to bring them down? Many of you might have heard, I know the district has promoted it on some of the social media channels. We want to present a Wildcat Pride certificate to Greenwood Elementary. The Board of Education extends congratulations for being chosen as a 2022 State School of Character. Your ability to focus on character development with a positive impact on academic achievement, student behavior, and school climate within the community proves you to be a true ambassador of Wildcat Pride. So, congratulations. Yeah. Yep.
Never turned down an opportunity to take the microphone. I just wanted to mention a few of the folks that are here and also members of our character committee who aren't here, because I think they have a huge role in what we do at Greenwood. Of course, our students and our parents as well. Andrea Gansky, our school psychologist, is part of our character committee. Anna Clark, a second grade teacher. Carrie Britton, kindergarten, and Haley Dunn in first grade. And I want to list some other names too, because I want the board to understand how many people are involved in our character committee. We've been running character education at Greenwood and in the district for 12 years. So 12 years of character education. Things can get stale a little bit, but we have such a dynamic group here who's really invested in making sure that our kids have a unique and fun experience that they can learn from. So I wanted to mention a few other folks. So if I can do this off the top of my head, in 5th grade, Kirsten Jacobson is on our character committee. In 4th grade, all three of our teachers, Steve Pop, Larissa Lewick, and Barb Van Morlehem, are on our character committee. 3rd grade, Brooke McMillan and Ashley Gorman, who's having a baby at this moment. Otherwise, she'd be here. She's trying to work it out. It just didn't happen for her. 2nd grade, Anna represents 2nd grade, Haley represents 1st grade, and then Carrie in kindergarten, Tanya Larson, our literacy coach, Emily Huber, our school counselor, Tara Wackler, our school secretary, and myself. So we've got Bridget Jancher, our music teacher, and Bridget Lensing, our Phi Ed teacher. So it's been a lot of fun to work with a wide range of people, and we work hard at it, but we have a good time, and it's good for our grown-ups just like it is for our kids. So thanks for having us tonight. Oh, and one more, Jill Guckenberger, new LD teacher.
Mr. Sherman, could you also please make sure to extend our appreciation and great pride to all of the students in your building, because ultimately they are the ones that demonstrate much of this, as well as the adults. And to also recognize that Greenwood is an absolute leader in all of this, and we also know that the principles that you use in terms of character education permeate all of the schools in our district. And so we're so very proud. Your award is really a reflection not only of your school, but of our whole district. So thank you very much. And make sure you tell the kids.
Yep.
Which is a perfect transition to our spotlight on education, because we are looking at character education as well for the next segment, and Mark Chapin.
Thank you, Stacy. For those of you in the audience that don't know me, my name is Mark Chapin. I'm the principal at Meyer Middle School, and I'm also the lead administrator for character education in our district. And we are here tonight. We have a group of individuals from all of our buildings to talk about two things. One, I'm going to provide a historical context for character education, where we've been as a district. And then we're going to have an opportunity for each of our building reps to talk about the great things that are happening in the school district of River Falls around character education. I want to start off, first of all, by saying oftentimes when we get these recognitions as a state or national school character or promising practice award, that people think we have perfect kids. And we don't have perfect kids. I'll give you one quick story. We had a site visit from a group of teachers from up north in Siren. They came down and were given a tour, and I heard this commotion going down the hallway, and I peeked around the corner, and there's two female students rolling on the floor fighting in front of our group, or our guests that were here to talk about character. So our kids aren't perfect, but I often wonder what our district would be in the absence of character education. So just a real brief history. Nate mentioned we've been at this for 12 years. I went back and found an email from April of 2010 inviting community members to Meyer Middle School to help us identify what do we value as a community. And that's how we came up with those 9 positive character traits. I'm going to talk about each one of these just for real briefly, but this is the process we've gone through. We've shared this process with other districts in the area because it's worked for us. And so I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through this. The first thing we did back in 2010, this is part of our strategic plan, we identified a framework. And this is a research-based framework from Thomas Lacona and Matt Davidson. It's about 20 years old, and it talks about effective character education practices. So as a district, we adopted this particular framework. It's from character.org. We then established a district character education steering committee. We got them together. We got them trained on the 11 principles. This is when, in April, as I mentioned, we engaged our community members, and we came up with our 9 positive character traits. 5 years into this process, we sent out a survey to our staff, students, and parents and said, do we still value these things? And a resounding yes, and that's why we've stuck with this for so long. One of the things I'm going to mention at the very end is how little this has cost the district. This is the impact that we've had as a result of character, and the cost that it happened over the years is very minimal. A lot of it's happened through grants, which we're very thankful for. And then, so we use some of those monies to train then our building level committees on those 11 principles. I think one of the big keys to this, we have shared leadership, and Nate mentioned, I don't know, probably 2/3 of your staff, Nate, right? Is a lot on their committee. We have outstanding building level committees, but we also have outstanding people on our district steering committee. And we've been meeting nearly every month since 2010. And it's one of it's a very enjoyable committee to be on. We continue to stretch and grow and learn from each other, and it's just a really fun group to be around. Really a defining question when we talk about character education, what's going to be different about our students because of character education. And there's 2 sides to it. There's performance character. Those are the traits that help you reach your human potential. And then there's moral character. So that's an important question we need to continue to ask ourselves as a district. All right, with that, we're going to turn it over to the building level. Is Chris Camerath here? Chris? All right, Chris, come on up.
All right, good evening. I'm here from Westside. Amy Everson plays a huge role in it as well, but she was busy tonight. So we have 2 slides kind of showing, we follow the same monthly traits as the entire district, which I think is awesome. It's neat, like you can tell the kids, you go to the football game tonight, and those high schoolers are learning the same exact character trait that you are. Our family character nights, down on the bottom left, have been really kind of a little bit hit by COVID, but have some neat events. When I first came here, it was really fun to take part in those and see those. Going down through the middle, those are our themes the past few years. And when I came, it was on the road to good character. We did carrying the torch of good character, which you can see in the upper right, over the last 2 years with the Olympics. And then hot off the press for you guys, big announcement, our new one for the next 2 years, and we haven't even told the kids yet, so if they're watching tonight, Wild About Character, and that's our new one. So our first grade team will be very excited. They have all their safari gear, and that was the kids had voted to narrow it down to 5 last year. So very exciting. Student voice and leadership, and this is one you're going to hear about next month, or in 2 months, in April when I come back. For my spotlight, we'll talk about Character Council, and I'll bring Amy and Stacia with me, which has been, over the last 2 years, we kind of transformed our Student Council into Character Council, and that's been a really neat thing that's had a major impact on our building. Spirit Days has kind of come from them, and it's just a fun thing. If you have kids that go to Westside, you've helped get ready for 50s Day or 80s Day or all sorts of different things. And then building engagement. on the right as well, just some of the various things we do. We do monthly assemblies. Each grade level takes a lead on it. And like everyone else, we've had to kind of adapt the last couple of years, so we've had them be virtual. Some that are live where kids can interact on Facebook, and the classrooms can kind of vote if something is showing respect or not, or some that are not live, and you can kind of watch it as you will. And so that's been fun. Next slide. A few pictures of our kiddos. Some are relatively new, and some of those are older. You can pick out kids from the past. But Wisconsin Promising Practices, those are ones we've been acknowledged for. And then we actually are getting one, submitting it. It's due next week right now as well on Character Council. And then National Promising Practice on the right. One of those, I want to point out, you can see the picture of the bell ringers. We have an event that happens a few times during the year, kind of a service group that's been really neat, where kids get out in the fall. We typically go rake leaves for those who can't as much. We go ring the bell at Family Fresh. Fire call, sorry. And then our spring one, we haven't finalized what that'll be yet, but usually we do something with the nursing homes and stuff. So it's really neat stuff. It's certainly not just me doing it like I caught Nate as I came in. It's a lot of other people helping, taking leadership. Our committee is, again, a huge part of our building. In addition to Amy Everson and Stacia Johnson, Tori Koskanemi are a major part of creating that. So, Greenwood.
Okay, well, at Greenwood, a lot of what you see and maybe we'll hear from me tonight is very similar to what you just heard from Chris. And I think that speaks to the power of the collaborative type of people we have in our district character steering committee. And quick story for you, just thinking back to the beginning of character education in this district. I was part of our very first strategic plan in 2000. Well, it would have been before 2010, 2008, 9, and Mark was on the committee, and Mark was the one who was responsible for bringing character ed as an idea to us, and that Healthy Lives Committee turned that into one of our key action steps. It's pretty awesome. I'm not sure that, well, there probably are other pieces from that are still hanging on strong, but the impact of this has been fantastic. At Greenwood, each year we have a theme, which is actually on the next slide. This year our theme is Caught with Character Spy Squad, and we've had a lot of fun with that. We use the theme to put together our monthly skits for our monthly assemblies that our staff and students put on for the student body. Our grown-ups have a really fun time participating in those. Their creative side comes out, and it makes for a memorable experience for the kids, and that's what we're shooting for. So imagine 400 kids in the gym watching our adults for 15 minutes with some of their classmates put on basically an artistic performance promoting the character trait, sitting on a gym floor. They're probably not remembering a lot from the lesson, but they'll remember what they saw, and then our teachers will follow up in the classroom to carry that through during the course of the month. We have pride groups each month, which is a really fun thing. We've been grateful to get back to those this year, which is a K-5 group that sticks together during their entire time at our school, led by one of our 35 certified staff members, so that's fantastic. Character Council was something I think may have started at Greenwood. You heard Chris talk about that, but we beg, steal, and borrow in every direction, so nothing is sacred. That's how we get better, is by sharing. And Character Council involves our 4th and 5th grade students, led by a whole bunch of our teachers who lead them in 15 different service learning projects during the course of the year. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get some things posted on social media. Our Character Council, where we spend time working on leadership skills, has been putting together posters on Black History Month and doing their own research and have those posted in the school, and we'll be advertising that out through our social media soon. Once we were identified as a school of character the first time around in 2015, we made it a focus of ours to really try and create some outreach to give back to everyone else and try and promote character throughout not just River Falls, but within the state. Since then, that time, we've been doing character podcasts a handful of times during the school year, where a group of our students get together and speak about character education and character education types of issues that people throughout the country can hear. We've spoken at a number of state conventions, whether it be the state character conference or the state counseling conference, which has been fun. And we've also tried to bring our parents into our program more so than in the past with a monthly character newsletter and a monthly character challenge that the students can submit on their honor that they participated in, and then they get a monthly yard sign that says we're a student of character, or we're a family of character, maybe is what it says. And on the left-hand side, you can see some of the themes that we have used over the past 10, 12 years, and some of the funny costumes and characters that we use to build character at Greenwood.
Thanks, Nate. One thing I want to point out, Greenwood Elementary School, so the Wisconsin Character Education Partnership is the one that awards schools these Promising Practice Awards and the State School of Character. Greenwood Elementary School, if you go on their website, Greenwood Elementary School has been recognized more than any other elementary school in the entire state of Wisconsin for the number of Promising Practice Awards that they have. So kudos to Greenwood. And then I have a slide at the very end here with all of the Promising Practice Awards from all of our buildings, which is pretty cool. I'm going to represent Rocky Branch tonight. Very similar things you're hearing from the other schools. Student voice is really important at Rocky Branch. Outreach in terms of service learning projects for the kids. They have a character education committee as well. The Buddies is really popular. My daughter was a younger, loved it when the older students came down and did character lessons with them. Now she gets to do that with the younger kids. One big area of focus for Rocky Branch is an Eco Day. This has been a, kind of their big thing, big theme, tied around character as well. And they're also in the process of applying for another Promising Practice Award. See some of the images from Rocky Branch. All right, Montessori.
Hi, I'm Karen Swanson. I'm the counselor at the Montessori. I'm excited to get rolling on character education. It's something that has long been near and dear to my heart. This is my year 2, so I feel like I'm getting rolling. The Montessori school, you all know, it does things a little differently. And so one of the things that I can say is that we follow all of the district character ed words of the month and the feel of it all. And we also do the Virtues Project. And so the Virtues Project is a project that was begun in about 1998, and we adapted it at the Montessori in 2015-16, I think. And what I can say about that is that it has completely been enmeshed within the fabric of the school. And so that's pretty, it's pretty amazing. We see that come out, and what it is it's, the virtues are something that are within all of us. We all have these wonderful qualities, and we just help the children through the Virtues Project shine a little brighter with those virtues. And so, for example, the children will catch each other with something of virtue. Maybe they caught a friend being helpful or generous or being honorable about something. And so they will write up a virtues voucher, and those will be read on the morning announcements. And so that's pretty student-driven and pretty fresh for everyone. And then we also have a restorative practice at the Montessori, and part of that is very much involved in our community building circles, and those happen daily in each of our classrooms. And in my lesson time, we always start with a circle, and that just builds that sense of community so that when we have a glitch, a trouble, someone's been harmed, we can come in with a restorative circle within that community and sort of begin to problem solve. So that's a big piece of what we do at the Montessori. Our monthly themes, you can see, follow along with the 9 character education themes. And then, within those circles, there's an opportunity for student leadership. And so the students are able to become circle keepers and be in charge of that circle. And that's very empowering for the kids. We also have theme days, just like the other schools. And you can see we have a rock garden now. We've got a few painted rocks, and each of our community members was able to paint a rock at our school picnic. And we placed them in a big rock placing ceremony, and it was very beautiful and touching. We also, within the Virtues Project, are excited to begin a Virtues Project connection with a school, the City Montessori School in Lucknow, India. And that is the largest school in the world, and we are working with the faculty at one of their campuses, and we will begin a letter writing back and forth. We will begin doing some cultural exploration back and forth. We're gonna do, I believe I'm on the hook for a little staff development with them, so that's really exciting. They are also doing Virtues Project work, so it'll be fun for the children to see sort of what they're doing and reflect it cross-culturally. So, also within the Virtues Project, I'm hoping to begin a little Families Virtue Project and hoping to roll that out either late this spring or early in the fall.
All right, Meyer Middle School. We have 3 yearly themes that we rotate every year. We obviously have 3 grade levels. This year is the Everest Project. Our first 2 keynote speakers, we had Carolyn Jensen in, graduate from River Falls High School, went to the Air Force Academy, flew for the Thunderbirds, which is amazing. She has a son, 7th grade son, Finn, that goes to the middle school. And then we brought in an author, a local author, Callie Troutmiller, whose daughter goes to the middle school as well. She's with our second keynote speaker, and we have 2 more speakers coming in. The idea with the Everest Project is helping kids go through the goal-setting process and talk about the importance of character in achieving those goals. The other two projects, service learning, and then we're going to do character and careers. We've been recognized for a number of Promising Practices Awards. We were a 2016 National School of Character. We will be reapplying for that. It's a 5-year recognition. We'll be reapplying for that this fall in November. A big part of our day is our teacher advisory. It's 19 minutes in the morning. Just to make sure kids are off to a good start. We do many of our character lessons during that time. We hired a 3rd counselor to teach the CASTLE model, which is social emotional learning, being very intentional about that. And then we have monthly kickoffs, which you see at a lot of the different elementary schools. And these are just some of the pictures. All right, I'm going to turn it for Cal for the high school and the Wren.
Good evening. I'm here, I get the lucky opportunity to represent not only the high school, but also the Renaissance Academy. So when we write the high school up here, we're talking all high school age students. The neat part is we've had the opportunity to take lessons, deliver them to about 1,100, 1,200 students in the high school setting. And then we have the Renaissance Academy with a much less student basis, and so they have to be adapted and transitioned, and that's been one of my primary roles as a counselor this year between the high school and the Renaissance Academy. We've done a lot over the last couple of years. We always said, you know, our students come in that went to elementary school in River Falls, and then they go through middle school in River Falls, and they come in with this character education platform, and we really just have really phenomenal kiddos. We gain the efforts of what all these other buildings do, and so then when we get to high school, how do we reignite it for students? I mean, because ultimately they've done it for many, many years at this point. They've seen these pieces too, and so we get excited about how do we reignite it. So you'll see on one of the pictures up here, just the one that's pictured here, our whole entire high school staff, they have a shirt that states, be your best self, and on the front, and then on the back, it has our 9 character principles. We feel like, you know, as high school students, if they're not seeing it, we're not doing it regularly, we're not showing it and modeling it. I think ultimately that's the best way as a high school staff that we can teach our students to work and function on a day-to-day basis. So our teachers wear these on Mondays, almost religiously. Usually Mondays are our days to do our WIN focus projects. When we do our WIN, that's our homeroom, we got about 30 minutes. We kind of find a way to do not only academic career planning, but we also integrate character ed within the academic career planning process too. So even today, being a Monday, Our students did academic career planning. Our juniors worked on some things with the ACT prep process, but the rest of our students actually did a pride reflection, and they talked about something that they were prideful and happy about that they've done within their lives, and found ways to embed that within our students in our process too. So for the high school, our biggest challenge is how do we make it obtainable and realistic for them to be able to approach it every single day. A lot of it is just through our plans and what we do for lessons, but we have many other outside activities too. If we're not living it and breathing it and actually being able to function it as high school students, these things that we see on the left side ultimately is how we live and breathe character. So not only what happens in elementary school to middle school, now our students get to capitalize it and they get to be the leaders of character in our community. I was in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and it was really neat for me to really hear from someone stating, you know what, when I'm out in the community, I can tell who is a River Falls high school student. And I think that reigns true whether I go to another community like Hudson and I see a student and all of a sudden I go back and I saw they had a River Falls sticker on their car and I'm like, I knew who that kid was coming from before I even knew their face too. And I think that's the high school opportunity that we want to capitalize on and really encourage our students to be that way too. So you'll see a couple more pictures up here too. One is some of our athletic fund programming. Check up front. Sunshine Fund's obviously done incredible things. Our programming that happens on the Sunshine Fund and what they do from a character aspect is absolutely unmatched. But also in the middle pictures is a couple more of how we promote it. If you go through the counseling office, Mr. Lickey will love this reference. We used to have what was he referenced as Terry Redlands in our counseling office. So they're all nature pictures. He would make comments about them, 7 times a day, every time he walked through us, and how much he disliked them. So we reinvented that this last year, actually have our 9 character traits with all of our students behind it pictured doing those traits, and so that our students get to see themselves as part of those character traits. They're enacting it, they're part of it, they're living it, and going through that process too. And then above it is even our high school secretary group. Our students walk in on Monday morning and they get to see our high school secretaries wearing the Be Your Best Self too. So we really just live it and breathe it. I wouldn't say, our teachers, they practice it and show it more than anything. And that's ultimately our goals. If we can show it as staff members, our kids already show it in the community. We're gonna find ways to capitalize on that and recognize it with our students as we go through that process too. Thank you.
Thanks, Cal. Wrap up with 2 last slides here. This was just a real basic, simple quote when I did my dissertation. This is one comment that stuck with me, and it's very true for our district. Again, how very little this has cost our district, and the impact that we're getting from it is pretty amazing. I know you can't see all this, but this is pretty impressive. This is all the Promising Practice Awards and 2 National Schools of Character on this one slide. And I can tell you that we are recognized at the state level for leading the way in character education. That's something that we should be really proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I think it's really important for everybody to recognize the broad base of support and workers within this program, which is what has allowed it to be so well embedded in the district. I also know that nothing like this really starts without a catalyst. And Mark, you have been that catalyst, so thank you for being that spark and for continuing to provide leadership for this. And I will say, I'm very glad that Mr. Lutke likes the art in the counseling department now. Good, added benefit. All right, so thank you very much for your work. Thank you for being here to present. Does anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, so both Stacy and I were on the board in 2010, and so we've watched this progress, and it seems like a long time ago. It probably was, but I remember, Mark, when you came in front of the board with this, and we were talking about it, and I was hopeful but somewhat skeptical, because I've often, in the course of my life, seen really great sounding initiatives kind of get some window dressing and not really go anywhere. And I've just watched this become such an integral part of this school community and this community generally, and I'm so proud of that. And to say that we're recognized statewide, you bet, or anywhere we go. I look at, slide 26 and all the things you've got listed up there. This is an important thing for us. We can be proud of this as a community, but appreciate all of the involvement here, not just the people here today, but the others in our buildings who have just made this successful. So, but again, like Stacy said, I want to point out Mark as being the catalyst for this. Thank you, Mark.
So thank you for being here tonight. All right, we are going to move on to reports. I don't believe that we have any other administrator reports, and so we are going to go right to our superintendent's report. Mr. Benson, could you talk with us about COVID?
Yep, you bet. We're anxious for this evening to give our monthly update regarding our all matters related to COVID. Here you can see a snapshot that we've endured, knock on wood, the Omicron spike and have come down the backside of that. Large number of cases and things are stabilizing as we are all anxious to see that continue. Next slide is just a representation from last week, individual cases with each of our buildings. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to kind of rehash and kind of go back to reiterate some of the rationale that we've had regarding our mask policy, as well as some of the other mitigation efforts that, you know, we always knew that it was important for us to have safety in mind for our students, for our staff, for our community, for vulnerable populations. We knew there were concerns within the medical capacity, means not only are the beds available, but the stressors on the staffing levels at medical facilities. And then we also said, you know, we need to give a little time here for those that choose a vaccine, that there's ample time for that to happen. And as we all know, that came out in different stages, different age groups initially, vulnerable people, then by age, and eventually trickled down to 5 to 11-year-olds and so on. And so we just wanted to allow time for those that made that personal choice to be able to do so. Next slide. Now, tonight, the recommendation for the board is that we'll go to an optional mask policy starting next Monday, the 28th. Reasons for that are that those COVID cases, particularly most recent with the Omicron case numbers, are on a steady decline. There's been ample time for people to choose whether they wanted to be vaccinated or not. Hospitalization capacity has improved. And there's some other factors. Certainly, there's more evidence that indicates the Omicron variant is less severe than previous variants, particularly with those that choose to vaccinate. Those of differing ages or other pre-existing conditions are factors that enter into that. Test kits are widely available. Medical treatment has definitely advanced, and so our recommendation, I have a couple more slides, but following a few more slides, the board then will discuss and vote on this change to optional masks for next Monday. As you know, I've been indicating the last few weeks in the weekly memo that I've been sending home to parents that this was our intention. We wanted to stay the course with the plan that was laid out. We wanted to give a heads up to those that maybe were not going to be comfortable with the optional mask policy, to have time to consider whether they wanted to choose to either homeschool or enroll in our virtual school, and to do that by notifying people in advance that this is the direction we were headed. Next slide, please. Want to emphasize that when we do go to the optional mask policy, it's going to be really important for us to respect everybody's individual decisions. Some are going to choose to wear a mask, some won't. And it's important that we ask our parents to help educate and remind their children at home. Let's not be passing judgment on those that might choose to wear a mask and those that don't. That's a personal choice, and let's not pass judgment talking about character. Let's let that be an individual choice. The district, I wanted to mention that we are.
That mic, it seems like I'm hearing a ton of feedback.
Yeah, it's a ton of
Can you try Stacy's?
Maybe I'm talking too close. Does that help?
I'm just, I hear like
It's
a
not that
humming.
mic, huh?
Try this one.
You don't want me to start over, though, do you?
Yeah, right from the
You
beginning.
know, I do not.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that the district will provide for those that choose to wear an optional mask.
It doesn't.
For those that choose to wear an optional mask, The district will provide KN95 masks. Elementary students, check with your teacher, and 6th through 12th grade, stop in the office and we'll take care of you. Next slide. I'm not going to go through detail. I put this slide on. It's really, the next slide is somewhat of a duplicate, but I just wanted to show an excerpt from our Wildcat roadmap, which was outlined kind of as our all-inclusive mitigation efforts related to COVID. And so this first slide talks about what we will continue to do moving forward if you have symptoms. Next slide, please. Summarizes that last slide, which basically says, here's the list of symptoms. And on the bottom, it says, here's the approach that we take if you have those symptoms. And I put the green arrow by a negative COVID test. So one of those three things is supposed to happen if you have symptoms and are desiring to return to school. The 5+5 mask rule is 5 days at home and then wear a mask for 5 days at school. The other option is you might get a doctor's note that says, hey, this kid doesn't have COVID, they have either seasonal allergies or they got food poisoning or whatever other condition it might be. The green arrow says the most common, the most typical practice is with the UW here in town providing quick and easy access to testing. That's what we find a lot of parents are doing with their children is just get a negative test. Next slide. Again, a page out of the Wildcat roadmap, whether if you test positive, next slide is a smaller summary. If you test positive, again, a 5+5 rule says, well, if you're positive now, you got to isolate, you got to stay at home for 5 days. And then, assuming that you're symptom-free and you're feeling better, you can come back to school, but the expectation is that you do wear a mask for 5 additional days. Remember, that used to be, first it was 14 days we were sending kids home in isolation. CDC changed that guideline and changed it to 10. If you got tested, you can come back on day 8. Then now it's changed to this kind of this 5+5 rule. So we want to continue to follow some of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Mitigation efforts with those obviously who test positive. Next slide. Another page out of the Wildcat roadmap talking about, well, what if I am a household, someone in my home, and I was a close contact to them. The household member tests positive, I'm a close contact. Next slide, please. Gives you a summary of what that Wildcat roadmap says, which says that if you're unvaccinated, it's that 5+5 rule again. 5 days quarantine, and then wear a mask for 5 more days. If you're vaccinated, you can come to school tomorrow as long as you wear a mask for 10 days. Next slide. I just want to extend a big thank you for everybody, the parents, the staff, the students in our community. Thanks for your patience, resilience, your care for others, and your understanding with all of our COVID-related decisions. Many of us are anxious for next Monday to come. We're anxious to have a change with the mask policy. We're glad that we finally are getting to the other side of COVID case numbers, and we certainly remain hopeful that we stay on that side of it. And so again, I'm recommending to the board that you would move forward with the plan that we've talked about and anxiously awaited for these COVID case numbers to stabilize and allow people time to get the vaccine, and hospitalization capacity is improved, medical treatments are better, and that puts us in a different place today. So I'll turn it over to the board for discussion and a vote on that at this time.
At this point, do we have a motion to approve a mask optional policy starting February 28th?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, actually Todd beat you to it, Amy, but
That's fine,
you'll
no
be-
problem.
You'll be able to vote. Are we ready to vote? I'm going to do a roll call because we have one member participating virtually. Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Alan? Yes. Amy?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Todd?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
The motion is carried. Thank you, Jamie, for your work, for keeping us apprised, and now for implementing this shift in policy. All right, we are going to move on now to action letter B, which is to approve the minutes, bills, and employment recommendations. So we have the minutes from the January 25th, regular Board of Education meeting. We have bills that have been submitted for payment. We also have employment recommendations. So do we have a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Cindy. Thank you, Bob. So Cindy moved, Bob seconded. Any discussion? All those in, have to do a roll call. Sorry. Lindsay?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
I'm saying yes. Amy?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
The motion carries. All right, I'm going to turn to Alan for a report on educational program.
Yeah, we met on February 7th, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Had a very good meeting and good conversation about a variety of things. One was we asked Chris Silver and some of his staff to be there to have a more comprehensive conversation about the Renaissance Academy, currently what's going on there, what their vision is for it, where we might be going with that as we look at facilities and their needs and addressing those in transition here for them. It was real important that we have that conversation, and that will be somewhat ongoing. But I thought that was very helpful for the board. I think it was very helpful for the staff as well, so that they can know where the board's, where the board's coming from, what our questions are, and those kinds of things. So we also talked a little bit about the fact that it's Career and Technical Education Month, and had some conversation about that and the initiatives that are going on in the school district, and Melissa Hanson was there to talk to us about that. A little bit of a discussion about the Western Wisconsin College Fair at the high school, which was very helpful. It's a great fair. I showed up at it and looked at it, and we're very fortunate to have that college fair here in our district. And we also, it was Career and Technical Education Month. We talked about that. It was Counselor Appreciation Week. We talked about that and a real important, vital role that our counselors have. And then we talked about the River Falls 4C provider contract that we need to put together for next year. And that was an action item. So I think that was everything. So I will move that we adopt the contract as presented, and it was attached in the documents for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Questions or comments about the contract? We did go through it at educational program pretty thoroughly. Okay, I'm going to take a roll call. Cindy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
I'm saying yes. Todd?
Yes.
And Lindsay?
Yes.
The motion is carried. So, on page 28, you will see the first reading of revised school board policy 458 related to wellness. The only changes will be an addition of some legal language that we need to put into the contract to be in compliance with the law. My recommendation is that we pass the first reading, but then also ask our administrators to report back to us about the question that came from the community earlier today regarding the menu, particularly for breakfast, so that my guess is most of us need to learn a little bit more about that nutritional value and so forth. What we know is that our meals need to be in compliance with the law, so it would be helpful for us to learn about that. Does that make sense to people?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
you're going to do what? What was the?
and we're going to pass the first reading, but we will also at the same time ask administrators to help us learn about the nutritional content of particularly our breakfasts.
Okay,
But
will we do
all
that
lunches.
at a committee meeting or a full board meeting, do you think?
Let's see what,
Yeah, just for clarification, the add-on here tonight is basically a requirement by the FDA for us to add that language in particular. To add that language in particular to any information that we send out, particularly to our students and their families. It's a legal requirement, and so we're complying with that. I know that today the board received an email from a friendly email, a parent that was asking some questions about those nutritional values, in particular breakfast. And when Stacy and I met this afternoon to review for this agenda, we talked about that email in relation to this policy and said that I don't think there's any reason to stop the policy revision from going forward, but also to recognize, considering you had received some information from a concerned citizen, that we'll come back and present to the board, perhaps through a committee meeting. We'll talk about the right forum to do that, to clarify that in fact there are nutritional values that we need to follow and that we do follow, and there are record keeping involved with all of that. And we'll certainly continue to remain in compliant with that, but we also respectfully want to give light of day to the concern that was expressed by the parent. It's just that it doesn't need to stop you tonight from approving this policy.
It's also good for the board simply to learn more about the nutritional expectations and how
Absolutely.
we are in compliance.
I think it's something we all want to know more about, so it was timely.
So do we have a motion to approve the first reading of revised school policy 458 related to wellness?
So moved.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions or comments? This will come back to us. I will do a roll call. Lindsay?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
I'm saying yes. Amy?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cindy? Yes. The motion is carried. We also have another policy revision before us tonight, and this is the second reading of revised school board policy related to early admission procedure. This would be for our youngest students. Is there a motion at this point to approve the second reading of this policy?
Also moved.
Thank you, Ellen. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Questions or comments? We have been through this a number of times, first of all at the committee level, as well as during the first reading at the school board level. But are there any lingering questions? Hearing none, I will start with a roll call. Lindsay?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
I'm saying yes. Amy?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
The motion is carried. All right, at this point, do we have any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening? If so, please come forward, tell us your name, and we invite you to speak for up to 2 minutes. And there's a timer up here just to help you.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Merriam, and I appreciate all of the efforts that you are doing for the character development of our children and everything. I applaud that effort that you're doing in school. Recently went to a parent meeting at the high school level where they've talked about they're decreasing the graduation requirements, they've removed the class ranking system in efforts to increase the mental well-being of our children because they've realized that some of those things are causing a lot of extra stress. My child came home from play practice on Saturday, and he said that the high school play that they're doing next year is Sweeney Todd with the demonic barber, where he's basically a serial killer, and they're chopping up bodies and feeding them in pies. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on that and how that fits into the greater plan of your character development for this school.
Are there any other visitors or delegations who would like to address the board?
All right. My name is Evelyn Flash. I am currently a senior at River Falls High School. And I just have some concerns concerning the mask mandate. In the US, over 100,000 of the COVID deaths are from people our age in this room, from 0 to 54. That is if the entirety of River Falls, Hudson, and Eau Claire died. This doesn't even take into account the over 800,000 other human beings that have died, our parents and our grandparents. At Connect Health and Rehab, since March 2020, there have been 80 cases of COVID that have resulted in 5 deaths. At Comforts of Home, as of August 11th, 2021, there have been 15 cases with 3 deaths. Masking up isn't to prevent you from contracting COVID entirely. The school cannot mitigate what you do outside of school. But what the school can do is prevent possible transmission from student to student in school. When everybody wears a mask properly, the transmission rate goes down. If a person with COVID does not wear a mask, it is very likely that it will be spread. But if they are wearing one, it reduces it substantially. Yes, our age group is the least likely to have adverse reactions, but we are also the most likely to carry COVID to those who are in an unsafe position. I work at a nursing home, so I see the effects of COVID firsthand. I see people dying, and it is absolutely horrifying. Why I believe masks should continue to be worn is because of this. I know that everyone in this room knows someone who is elderly or immunocompromised, people that we care about and that we have the potential to protect. Almost 6 million human beings in the world have died. Human beings with a family, emotions, experiences, and knowledge that is lost due to a preventable disease. I acknowledge that the numbers are low, but rather than removing the mask mandate and potentially raising the numbers, especially given spring break is soon, we should instead continue the mandate for at least the rest of the year and then potentially lower it for next year. I just want to protect the people that I care about. Thank you.
Hello. I had not planned to make comment tonight based on the emails that were coming from Mr. Benson about the mask optional. However, it would be remiss of me to not stand up here and say thank you for finally putting this back in the hands of the parents where it belongs to recognize what our children need. I hope that we are never in this position again where you take the control away from us. Please continue to keep optional and know that we as parents know what's best for our children. But thank you for doing this at this point in time, and I hope that you will continue to keep it up to the parents to make that decision.
Would anyone else like to address the board this evening? All right, then we are going to move on to letter G, and that's, would any board member have any suggestions for future agenda items? We've already identified one, the nutritional guidelines.
I have a thought about a venue. Personally, I would prefer that we have a different meeting place than here. I don't think our crowds have been large enough to warrant, we can meet in a bigger room, but.
If you look on the agenda, we have made that change as
Okay.
a recommendation for the next meeting.
So we're going back to district conference office? Okay, I
At
think,
least tentatively, unless
Yeah.
the crowd would require a larger space.
okay, so I think it's, anyway, good. I'm glad you pointed that out. Good to single it out, because the acoustics down here are not good. The acoustics are really bad down here on the stage. For anybody who's watching, you can hear us far easier than we can hear each other, so.
The intent is to move it back to the district office conference room. Disclaimer is, in April, there may be a conflict, I think, Amanda?
Yeah, the food advisory committee's having a meeting before, and they want to serve you some food, so they need a kitchen, so it would be here, so.
We'll communicate if there needs to be a change, but for our next regular board meeting in March, the plan is we'll be in the district office conference room.
And is the technology set up in a way we can still live stream?
Yes.
From that
Yes,
room?
yeah, we'll still, I'm glad you point that out for any listeners, that we'll continue to broadcast so people can listen and or view from home.
It's the capability for streaming that has driven our need to be in here. We wouldn't need this large space, but we don't have anything in between. that has the Zooming capability, or the broadcasting capability. Any other future agenda items? All right, then we're going to schedule upcoming meetings. So Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, March 7th at 6 o'clock at the District Office Conference Room. The Personnel Committee will be meeting on February 28th, that's next Monday, at the District Office. There will be no meeting in March. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, March 21st at 6 o'clock, again in the District Office. And the Finance and Facilities Committee will meet Monday, March 28th at 6 o'clock in the District Office. At this point, I will make a request for an executive session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985-1C for the review and discussion of the Board of Education self-evaluation results. I've made that motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Lindsay. I need a roll call. Lindsay, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
I'm saying yes. Amy, we will miss you, and we will see you soon, so thanks for being with us.
Yep, see you Monday. Bye.
Yep. Alan?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Cindy? Yes. All right, we are going to be in executive session. Thank you, everyone.